the simplest thing one can say about the experiential knowledge of a spiritual awakening is that it's a shift in one's perspective. He says it's not dramatic, it's not revolutionary, it's not even a destination. It's an event that we experience. And he says not just once and for all either, which I thought was awesome. You know, because you think it's like, okay, well, I know I'm not enlightened, right? So it's something that I have to achieve. It's something that I have to get to. But he's saying it's ongoing. It's ever expanding. It's ever increasing. That it's in the moment. And it's in every moment to come. We need only to decide to stay there. I love that. It's almost like it's a choice. It's a choice we make, right? Spiritual awakening is a remembering. It's not a becoming, it's not a transforming, but a remembering something that we have temporarily forgotten. It's like spiritual amnesia. In awakening, what's revealed to us is that we are not this body. We're not this time and place. In a spiritual awakening and an enlightenment, we just remember that which we've forgotten of who we really are. What we are is that which manifests as all things. I'm like in all things and of all things. Because really it's the divine energy and the divine source. Spiritual awakening can just be a glimpse of this. It can be like a momentarily a piercing of the veil, if you will. An aha moment where suddenly you perceive this world from the perspective of spirit. It's spirit vision. From a view of oneness, that we're all connected. I've spoken before about Mary Magdalene. I'm like really fascinated with Mary Magdalene's story. And in her gospel, now it didn't make it into the canonical gospels, but that's a whole nother history lesson. Because that was a political decision. But there's this amazing Gnostic gospel, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, where she talks about this conversation she had with the Master. And she said to the Master, to Jesus, she said, and I've shared this with you before, but I just love it, you know. When somebody meets you, she says, in a moment of vision, she asks, is it through the psyche, the intellect, that they see you? Or is it through the spirit, the soul? And Jesus said, it's neither. It's not through the psyche, it's not through the spirit. It's in the nous, N-O-U-S in Greek. And that means in between the two. That's where the treasure lies. So it's kind of somewhere in between this space, between the intellect and the soul. So it's not surprising that the Master Jesus offers Mary the secret about enlightenment and tells her that it's in the new place. Not in the nude, in the new, N-O-U-S, in the new place, that the veil is pierced. Later on during our announcement, Salah is going to talk about a workshop that he's going to be giving on the 8th chakra. I think that this might be the new place. Maybe this is where the veil is pierced and the glimpse occurs. The place where perspective gets shifted. I've had this glimpse 1 or maybe 2 or 3 times, but the very first time I ever was completely aware of it was during my work with the families of the World Trade Center attack. And when I looked out in a sea of thousands of people who were grieving the loss of their loved one, it was in a moment that I had a glimpse of our oneness. I realized in that moment I was ministering not only to them, but ministering to the blessed self in all. And that in ministering to them, I was ministering to me also. Now this experience of oneness, this glimpse into oneness from the perspective of spirit, spirit vision, which is a spiritual awakening, it didn't last. It didn't seem to last anyway. I went back into memory loss. I went back into forgetfulness, so to speak, forgetting my true nature, which is always from the perspective of spirit. But I went back to sleep. I went back into ignorance. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah.
Where you have a glimpse and then you lose it? It's like, I got it. Oh, I have it. I'm there. Oh, I lost it. Crap. But I want to suggest tonight that all is not lost. Adyashanti says this: the good news is that once a moment of this spirit perspective occurs, the aperture of our awareness can never completely close down again. Isn't that awesome? It may seem like it's closed down completely, but it never quite does. In the deepest part of yourself, you don't ever completely forget. Even if you've only glimpsed reality for a moment, something within you is changed forever. So this is the point that I really want to have you share about tonight. This change that is occurring within us. This spiritual awakening that is in fact happening to us. It's happening. I thought I would share with you some symptoms of a spiritual awakening. And see if any of you are starting to have these things happen to you. I'm starting to see my world differently. I'm experiencing this life differently. I'm starting to have spirit perspective in this embodiment right here and right now. So here's the symptoms. See if you can relate. Attitude of gratitude. Attitude of gratitude. Unending joy, even in moments of deep, dark despair. Letting go of the need to be a victim. Letting go of suffering and attachment. There's another interesting Jesus little story about this guy he's crippled. And he's on a mat, I guess like a stretcher. And people have to carry him in. And basically Jesus says, get up. Get your mat, get up, and move on. You don't have to be on that mat anymore. Get up. I've also had this feeling of oneness and lack of separateness. There are times when I have non-judgment. There are also times when I have lack of envy. There are times when I don't feel better than you or less than you. There are times when I feel like I can allow you to be you and allow myself to be me. There are times when I feel I know nothing, because most of the time I think I know everything. But there are moments when I feel I know nothing. And there are moments when I have this beginner's mind, Shoshin, that Zen Buddhism talks about. Here's a really great one that I've been feeling. Awareness of my own faults. I gotta share this. She's not here, so I gotta share it. I had an issue the other night with Chris. And boy, was I right. I was right. And I held on to that, righteous anger. Because I was right. And then all of a sudden, she walked away. She was really upset. She walked away. And I sat out in the backyard in my righteous anger. And I said, well, she needs to do what she needs to do. And she needs to be where she's at. And it's okay. And all of a sudden, she came back outside. And she just looked at me. And I was like, I'm sorry. Because I realized that, she just needed to have a little moment with me. And I was off doing something else. And so even though I was right, I was wrong. And in that moment, when I said I was sorry and I hugged her, and I just felt so bad for my own selfishness, I really felt like, that's cool. That's a spiritual awakening, because I'm learning. I'm learning about my faults. Another symptom is not seeking recognition. There are times when I'm not seeking recognition. There are times when I feel other-centered and not self-centered. Although it's few and far between, there are times when I'm not seeking to control. And there are times when I'm not being attached. There are times when I'm not feeling I have an expectation of an outcome or an expectation of people. A deep feeling of peace that all is well and that everything is unfolding and that it is all good. I have moments where I feel like all I want to do is be good and do good. So are you feeling any of these symptoms? Do you have any of these signs of a spiritual awakening? Any glimpses, perspectives of spirit? Even just once? Even just one? With spiritual awakening comes a total paradigm shift of the way we perceive life. This embodiment. With just one glimpse, it just takes one glimpse, one shift, one of these symptoms, and the slightest experience of any of them, and you know you're on the right path. And then there's no turning back. Now, you know what? Of course, we want to feel good. How many of you want to feel good? Yeah, we all want to feel good, right? It's our nature, human nature, to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But the key here is that this is a self-centered venture. So true spiritual awakening lies in something much less self-centered. Something that's beyond the veil of separation. A recognition that we are one with all that is, even the bad stuff. Because the Tao Te Ching talks about yin-yang and opposites, dark and light. So the real trick here is perspective of the spirit. Spirit vision, paradigm shift, spiritual awakening. It's in the acceptance and the allowance of whatever is, as all that is, and that it's all good, it's all okay. And that this whole thing right here is just a drama that the soul is acting out with different characters. And when we wake up to this absolute reality that we are not this body, not this world, that we are the blessed self, then we'll have had the ultimate spiritual awakening. But the good news is, we're well on our way.